We've been joined by Professor Michael Ozekhome, all the way from Abuja. I don't know if he is on the line via Zoom. Good morning to you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Professor, tell us about these latest developments. There have been this uproar of joy across Nigeria about this latest judgment. But even though James Ibori, former governor of Delta State, has raised some concerns about the influence of the federal government on this particular matter, tell us how you feel about it and what you think about this latest development.
I disagree most respectfully with former governor James Ibori, my very good friend. I saw his analysis yesterday, which I think is greatly faulted. I celebrated this judgment in a write-up I did last night by hailing the Supreme Court from delivering the local government councils from the asphyxiating grip of state governors, contrary to the position, the clear position of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The local governments were recognized as a third tier of governance in Nigeria in 1976 during the military. A little historical and contextual background is necessary here. There were 3 regions in Nigeria up to 1963. On 10th August 1963, the Midwest region was created from the Western region by popular plebiscite, through popular referendum of the people. It was making 4 regions. Under the 1963 Republican Constitution, as against the 1960 Independence Constitution, Nigeria therefore had 4 regions, and money was shared by these 4 regions under Section 140 of the 1963 Republican Constitution, with the federal, with the regional governments having 50% of the share. Then the federal government was paid 20%, whilst 30% was paid into the federation account, which was shared amongst the 4 regions, with the region that already had 50% against sharing from this 30% given to the regions. That was the situation. So by 15 January 1966, the first military push took place in Nigeria, led by Major Kaduna Uzogu and other majors. That brought about military government. And by 1967, General Yakubu Gowon created 12 states out of the 4 regions, by which he hoped to break the backbone of the Eastern region. Now, under the 1999 Constitution, the local governments, now 774, are recognized as a tier of government. And that has also been recognized under Section 162, subsection 3 of the Constitution, when it comes to distribution of money that comes to the federation account. So, in other words, Nigeria operates a 3-tier system of government, which you can find under Sections 2, Section 3, and Section 162, subsection 3 of the 1999 Constitution, meaning the federal government, the state government, and the local governments, councils. In 2014 at the National Conference, I was one of those who spearheaded for making the states to be only the federative units of the country. But of the over 600 recommendations made by the 492 delegates to the National Confab of 2014, many of them spearheaded by me. It was few, like the national anthem, which I had also spearheaded and moved the motion on, that had been brought about by this government. So, the state governors have been acting as imperial lordships, like Louis XIV of France, that stood in front of Parliament imperiously in 1655 and declared before Parliament, "L'état c'est moi," I am the state. What have they been doing? When money is paid from the Federation account under Section 162, they look only at Section 162, subsection 5, which says money standing to the credit of local governments shall be allocated to the state governors. They forget to look at Section 162, subsection 6, which says that money paid to the state governors shall be paid into a state local government joint account, in which case state governors are merely made vehicles, messengers, postal agents to take this money to the rightful owner. But like I wrote on the 17th of October 2020, when I embraced Executive Order 10 passed by the then President, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, I was not particularly a fan of his governance style, but that was one of the few occasions I ever had to praise President Buhari. What did he do? In the same scenario, money is meant for courts within the states. And this allocation is supposed to be paid to the National Judicial Council, NJC, to be distributed to the heads of courts so that they can use. But this money never went directly to the heads of courts of state governments and was being certified and withheld at source by the governors. So Buhari made Executive Order 10 that money meant or allocation meant for state courts should be given directly to them. They should have a first line charge on them. And I praise him. Likewise, what the Supreme Court judgment did yesterday was to say, hello, state governors, let us remind you, there are 3 tiers of government: federal, state, and local governments. You cannot continue to waylay, like I described the situation one time, like bandits. Allocations meant for local government areas or councils, and they become subservient to you governors, like slaves, like fawners, like bootlickers. If you ask any local government council chairman, I am from a local government council, Ozekhome East Local Government Council of Edo State, having been born in Niyukwe, near Agenebode. But if you talk to the local government council chairman, like any other one, whether it's Ozekhome East, Ozekhome West, Ozekhome Central, on one East, on one West, whether a hall, any local government, they will tell you that, sir, the little allocation we have is not even enough for us to pay salaries, let alone embark upon capital development. Why? Because the allocation meant for the local government councils was paid into the state joint local government account, which only the governor oversees and cannot be challenged by the local government councils. So contrary to the argument of my good friend, former Governor James Ibori, that what this thing means is that the federal government will now have overbearing power on the local government. I do not agree. Rather, the powers of the federal government has been chipped away from. The powers of the state governors have been chipped away from. What it means is that instead of states alone having the prerogative to go to Abuja at the end of every month through their commissioners for finance to go and discuss with FAC to check what is due to their states and their local government chairman. Don't forget, in Nigeria, we only share the national cake. No one cares how the national cake is baked. Rather than that situation, local government chairmen, their administrators, that is, their directors of finance, can also now go to Abuja with the state commissioner for finance and the minister for finance and sit down to know what is coming to each state and to each local government council. They can no longer be giving pittance, tokenism, by states acting as proxies. Like MK Abiola will say, he said, you cannot shave my head in my absence. You can't shave my head in my absence. So what has been happening is that the state governors have been shaving the heads of local government council chairmen in their absence. And like MK Abiola will also say, I always like to mimic the great man, that man who won elections and he was never allowed to be president of Nigeria. We are still retwining our democracy, and some of them are true judgments, remarkable.
Sir, you were saying something about them being accountable and the fact of direct funding, like High Chief said. Now, would it now be that the reason why some local governments aren't developed is because they don't have direct funding? Hello, sir. Are you with us?
Yeah, well, that is certainly one of the reasons. Obviously, that must be one of the reasons they don't have direct funding. The situation is that, what has been the situation is that if the governors tell a local government chairman to jump, we ask the governor only, how high do you want me to jump? And if the governor says run, the local government chairman will ask the governor, how fast do you want me to run? Should I do like Ben Johnson or Usain Bolt? Because they have been marginalized, suppressed, repressed, subjugated, ignored, denied. Now, the Supreme Court judgment, through its interpretation, which the Supreme Court called progressive interpretation, to remove a mischief, to remove a problem that has been going on. The Supreme Court is not saying that Section 162, subsection 5, or 6 did not provide for a joint local government accounts into which money is to. It says, since you have been breaching this section continuously, we have a duty to look at what the law was meant to cure, but what you are doing. The prophecies of what the law will do, what the courts will do, are nothing more pretentious, says a great jurist. Is what I mean by law. And the Supreme Court is the final court of the land. That is why it says in Adegoke Motors Limited versus Adesanya, he said this court is final in the sense of finality. It is final not because it is infallible. It is infallible because it is final. So the Supreme Court has intervened to say there is so much money coming to the federal government. There is so much money coming to the states. There is so much money coming to the local government, all of which are recognized as sharing partners under Section 162, subsection 3 of the Constitution. But the states have been operating Nigeria like a two-tier system, where the federal government shares and the states shares and take their own, including the one meant for the local government, and give patents to the local government, leaving them with nothing to develop. So it is not actually that. What the judgment means is that the federal government will suddenly have overbearing influence over the local governments, council chairman. No, rather, I see it that the local government council chairmen have now been upgraded, while the state governors' power had been reduced, so that local government chairmen can also now go to Abuja and sit with governors, representatives who are the commissioners for finance, and the minister of finance, to know what is coming to them, which is coming to them directly. By the way,
Prof.
Why are people, just a moment, please.
Okay.
Why are people not worried? Because we have been talking about restructuring, and some people are saying that the judgment means that the local government will now be subjugated under. I do not agree. Why are people not worried? Why the federal government is having so much share of the national cake? 62.68%. All the 36 states, 46.72%. All the 774 local government areas, only 20.60%. This is the sharing formula. But that 20.60% meant for the local government councils has not been going to them. They can't even build covers, not to talk of maternity homes. Yet these are the grass-rooted tier of government that are supposed to know that a pregnant woman did not have a dispensary or a maternity to go and deliver a child and run to their aid. For people who are worried that the local government chairman could also now be made corrupt, in fact, they will now be held accountable and responsible to the people.
Prof, I was just wondering.
People who know their houses, they go and meet the chairman. We know how much was given to you this month. Why have you not done this and this?
Okay, Prof, I was just wondering what you think would be the challenges of implementation, because I have also seen that Anambra State Governor said he was going to look at that particular judgment and then review it and then take a stand. Do you see some challenges around this particular implementation of the judgments? Do you think governors would abide by this? Because again, in the past, we've seen governors who go about flouting this particular dichotomy that exists between the state and the local government, and nothing happens to them.
The Supreme Court was very clear. They said this judgment should take effect from now. And don't forget, the governors themselves have also always been dissolving local government councils and appointing caretaker committees, contrary to the clear provisions of Section 7 of the Constitution, which says a system of democratically elected government is hereby put in place. And our governors, in making laws, will make laws to ensure the independence of these local government councils in terms of their structure, their composition, their functions, and their finances. So where governors dissolve these local governments and appoint caretaker committees, the Supreme Court has now said, no, you cannot do so. It also means that the local government development areas, which were created by the then Governor Bola Ahmed Tinubu of Lagos State, who is now the president, and under whom the Attorney General, his own appointed Attorney General, has gone to court. It means that those development areas, according to the judgment of the Supreme Court, which was very clear on this, as clean as a whistle, they cannot have allocations. The Supreme Court says allocations can now go to only local government councils that were democratically elected. So if they are caretaker committees, they cannot have. So what are the challenges? Challenges are that the governors will simply have to obey this Supreme Court decision, because let me tell you, no money is going to go to them now. It means at the FAC level, FAC level, when they are sharing, they will say what money is meant to the federal government is amount X, which is that of the state governments is amount Y. What of the local government councils? They say
it is amount Z, which are the local governments that have been democratically elected. Those are the ones that we share. Those ones meant for states, we do not have democratically elected governments, councils, but only have caretaker. Their own may be warehouse for the
just
future.
Just wrap up your thoughts on this. Just 1 minute, please, Prof.
Their own democratically elected government. So I think that this is a judgment that is salutary, that should be applauded. I do not see why the Rokos, why the Brouhaha. I salute the Supreme Court of Judicial, and I salute Lateef Fagbemi, the Attorney General, who took this matter to court for interpretation.
All right, Prof. Professor Mike Ozekhome, the Senior Advocate of Nigeria, many thanks for your thoughts on the morning show. Thank you so much for
thank you very much.
Your thoughts on the show this morning.
Nigeria is work in progress. God bless Nigeria. We get it right. We are trying.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. We appreciate your contribution.
Appreciate it.